Chafala from Medalef, the top line. Tener Rabbanan, stood in a Braisa. Kolel Shamru. All of these items that we said in the Mishnah, wicks and oils that should not be used on Shabbos for whatever reason. Ein Malikim ben Shabbos. You can't use them for Shabbos for a candle. Aval Oisin ben Medura. But you can make, let's do that different. All those that we said that you can't use on Shabbos, but you can use them for a large fire. So if you have a fireplace or whatever, you can make a big fire out of those items, those lechesh and chaysen, kelach, psilos eden, psilos midbar, moss. Okay, all of those things you can make a fire out of. Morning. We're on the top of Chaf Aleph.
Yeah.
Whether you're using it for heat or whether you're using it for light, it's not a problem. Whether it's on the ground. The Gross Ger says menorah, whether it's on the ground or whether it's on some sort of candelabra, it's not a problem to use those items in the Mishnah that we said you shouldn't. The whole prohibition was if you're using it as a wick in a candle, that's where the prohibition was. Okay. Well, we qualified the Mishnah that it's only regarding wicks in an oil lamp. Rashi says kroizel, which I think he says in other places also, which is an oil lamp. We said that you shouldn't use, we translate it as castor oil. My shemen kik, what is shemen kik? Now we can't translate it now because the Gemara has to go through what it means. What is shemen kik? What is oil of kik? Amar Shmuel. So Shmuel says, I asked all the sea travelers. They said, there's a bird in the islands, the kik shmai, and the bird is called kik. And the oil they're getting from that bird is you can't use that. You can't use that oil. Rav Yitzchak, I don't know what type of bird it is. Rabbi Yitzchak Breid Rabbi Yehuda Amar Mishcha the Kaza. Rabbi Yitzchak, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, says that it's cotton oil. Rashi says cotton. If you see the top line, the first, the last of the wide lines, Shakir and cotton. Rashi says Kaza is cotton. Rish Lakish Amar Kikayan Diyaina. Rish Lakish says that it's a castor plant, just like Yaina had. Remember in the story with Yaina, after the Ninveh, he goes outside, he sits over there, and he got shade from the leaves of this castor plant, and then it dies. So that's called Kikayan di Yaina, a castor plant of Yaina. Hashem tells him, you're concerned about the castor plant, you're not concerned about the city. Okay. Amar Rabba Bar Chana. Rabba Bar Chana says, L'didi chazi lekikayin diyayna. I saw kikayin diyayna. Obviously not the same plant, but he saw a plant, a kikayin, a castor plant. He says, Ulitzluliva dami. And it's similar to tzluliva. Tzluliva was another type of plant, which I'm not sure exactly what it is, but apparently in Babylonia that was, or maybe not, Rabbi Bar Chana could have been in Eretz Yisrael as well. He was a relative of Rabbi Bar Chana. Chana was a brother of Rav's father. So this would have been a first cousin once removed, possibly. So, but he was in Eretz Yisrael as well. We have a lot of Rabbi Bar Chanan, Rabbi Yechanan, So he says he saw the kikayin diyayin. It's similar to tzuliva. In the Steinsaltz, they have a word for it, for the tzuliva plant. Umide pashki Rabbi. It grows in the swamps. Vial pum chanusa midlan yasei. And on the entrance to a store, they hang it or they place it. Apparently, it gives off a good smell. They put it in the store entrance. Umi partsi doihi, which means from its seeds. Avdi mishcha, they make oil. Uba anpayi, and in its branches, naichan kol brichi de marava. All the sick people of the West, they sit in its shade, the shade of the branches. So it has oil in the seeds, and it has the leaves are probably very large, and it gives off shade. Amar Rabba. Psila Shemra Chachamim, the wicks that the sages said in Malikim and Shabbos, that you can't use them on Shabbos. Why? It's because the light flickers. That's why you can't use it on Shabbos. And Rashi gives two interpretations. The first pshat is flickers. It jumps around. The second pshat is that it doesn't absorb in the wick. It hovers over it. Okay. Shmanim Shamar Chachamim. What about the oil that the sages says in Madlikim? That's mipnei sheinim shacham achar psila, because it's not drawn. It's not drawn after the wick. And then, so that you would possibly resolve by adjusting it. It's not being drawn in, so you'd adjust it a little bit to get it to burn better. Abaye asked Rabbi a question. Rabbi was the teacher. Those oils that the sages said that you shouldn't use them on Shabbos. Let's say I mix in a little kosher oil. So can we kosherize this oil, the non-kosher oil, kosher as in usable for Shabbos, by adding some other oil inside? So his question goes like this. Do we make a decree that maybe you'll use pure non-acceptable oil? Or do we not make that gezerah? So Amalei, he tells him back, Ein madlikin. You can't use it. Can't light with it. My time, what's the reason? It says the fish Ein madlikin. Because he can't. Now, there's different interpretations. Maybe he means to say, enough already. It's a gezerah. That means it's a gezerah, it's a decree. Or it could mean lefish ein madlikin, because it doesn't actually burn. Not ein madlikin, that because he can't use it. Fish ein madlikin, because they don't burn well. Because they don't burn well. Even though you mixed it in, it still doesn't work.
Is that the first place where someone's saying, why can't I do it? Because.
Right. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like because I said so. Right. Or the pshat could be, Rashi says the fish in madlikin, it's kozrinan ha to ha. There's a decree. That's what he means to say. Fish in madlikin, because there's a decree there. But other commentaries say because it doesn't work in madlikin. Esrei, he has a question on this. We just gave a very strict opinion that you can't mix acceptable oil with non-acceptable oil and then say that it should be okay. Esrei has a question. Karach davar shemadlikim bay al gabi davar she'ein madlikim bay. If you have wicks, one of them is acceptable and one of them is not. You take the acceptable wick and you wrap it around the other one, the unacceptable. And it says, Ein madlikim bay, you can't light with it. It's not good. However, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, Shel Beis Abba, in my father's house, they would wrap a wick around a walnut, and they would use it. Ketani mias madlikin. You see, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says a madlikin. That means I can have one thing that's not acceptable. The egois over here, it's not an acceptable wick, the walnut. And nevertheless, I wrapped a wick around it, and it became acceptable. So why can't you kosherize the oils like that? Amalei, he responds back. Look, you quoted me a machlekes, and you tell me that that's a proof. You have a kasha from Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, but you supported me from the Tanakama. Tanakama says that ein madlikin. You can't use a walnut. Gemara says halei kasha. That's not a problem because my Serav, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel's statement is much stronger than the Tanakama because he wasn't saying theoretically. He was saying what his family actually did. That my Serav is the halacha. So whenever they bring a story, Maisa, and there was also a story, that's very clear cut. That's the halacha. So Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is the real support. If he says that it's acceptable, together with the story, then that's good. Mikol makom kasha. Okay, you just got distracted over here with which one to. But nevertheless, if you get back to the point, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says that his family would use a walnut together with a wick. That was considered acceptable. So why can't you use the oils, mix them together? That's mikol makom kasha. The Gemara says, my love, lahadlik. What are you telling me? That they would light it like that and the walnut was part of the wick? Lai, lahakfais. They had the same issues that we have today. How do you get the wick to stay up in the oil? You need a floating device. We use cork and we put the wick through the cork. They had cork. They had walnut things that floats, and they would put the wick in that to keep it to float. Sounds very good. That's why it's allowed. But to use it as a wick, that would have been prohibited. So that's a good teretz for Rabbi. The only problem is yilahakvis my tana the Tanakama. So why did Tanakama say that it was prohibited? If you're only using it as a floating device, and the wick is protruding out of it, so just to keep it up. The Gemara answers that Kula Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, okay, it's a real issue. What we have to say is that there is no Tanakama here. The whole Mishnah, it's a Mishnah or a Brisa. So this whole Brisa, it's a Tosefta, is the opinion of Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Well, it didn't say that. Well, we could resolve that by saying v'chasuri mechzer b'hachiktani. The Brisa was incomplete. It was missing some words, and we can fix it by adding in some words. It goes like this. If you wrap an unacceptable wick, an acceptable wick around an unacceptable wick, the halacha is ein madlikin bay. You can't light with it. When do we say that that's an issue? That's if you're using it to light. But if you're using it as a floating device, then it's going to be mutter, then it's acceptable. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, because Reb Shimon ben Gamliel gave us the story. He says, Shal Beis Abba, in my father's house, we used to do this all the time. We used to use a floating device, a walnut. Okay, basically what we're holding right here is that to mix two items together, one acceptable and one not acceptable, remains unacceptable. Okay. Eily, is it really so? Eily was in Yiddish they would translate always Sizdach nicht azai, right? That's what they would say. The modern dictionaries, they'll say it comes from the word yes. In yes. Which is exactly the opposite of ein, which is no. They say, is it really so? Eily, is it really so? In Yiddish, I don't know how to say that. I'm a stalker. Okay.
Or it could be azay.
Azay, right? Yeah. V'ha'amar Rav Bruna. Rav Bruna says, Amar Rav, in the name of Rav. A fat that's melted and you turned it into a liquid form. And you have dissolved fish innards. That's also in a liquid form. It's now oil. So both of these are oil. You can put in regular oil into that. Umadlik. Now in the Mishnah we said that there's a problem with chaylev. You can't use chaylev. Nachum Hamadi said if it's cooked, if it's boiled, but that doesn't mean that it's in liquid form. Nachum Hamadi said that it was boiled once and it could be recongealed. But here it's in liquid form and you add in a little bit of oil, you could use it. Well, that's a problem because something that's that's unacceptable, that you add in oil, acceptable oil, we had from Rabbi that wasn't acceptable. And here we have, in the name of Rav, that it is acceptable. The Gemara answers, Hani mimshchi beinayo, Hani lay mimshchi beinayo. These are actually acceptable because they're drawn after the wick, even if you don't add oil. So these are acceptable. And really, so why are you telling me that you have to add oil? If they're acceptable on their own, beinayo means in their original state, be'en, in its original state. So it's acceptable. So why do you have to add oil? So gozer rabbanan al chelev mahutach mishum chelev sheinu mahutach al kirvi dagim shenimucha mishum kirvi dagim shleinimucha. There was a gzeira there. Because if it's in a congealed form, it's not acceptable. You can't use it as oil. So therefore, they made a gzeira, even if it's in liquid form, you can't use it. However, if it is in liquid form, where there's a gzeira on that, not to use it, but you added in acceptable oil, then that's fine. The Gemara asks, one second. If it's in its congealed form and you added oil, so it's unacceptable and you added oil, we learned from Rabbi that doesn't become acceptable. Doesn't get kosher by adding in kosher acceptable oils. So if that's prohibited, so then there should be a gzeira that if it's in an acceptable form, which is when it's in liquid form, and then you added in oil, that should be a gzeira, just like if it's in its congealed form and you added oil. We should make a gzeira on that. The Gemara says, no, he goof a gzeira. This whole thing is a gzeira. The whole thing is a gzeira. You might come to adjust it and all of this. And now you want to put a gzeira on something that's not even prohibited. So I translated Higufa Gzeira that we're starting off with a derabanan, but I'm not sure if that's really the pshat. Could be because there's a double Gzeira. There's really a double Gzeira. I'm not sure what the Gemara is emphasizing here. There's a concern you may adjust it. Then there's certain wicks, there's certain oils that don't burn well. Then there's this oil that does burn well. And then we added in kosher oil into it. There's several gzeiras here. I mean, even the original case was a gzeira. You might come to adjust it. Or maybe let's ignore that. Let's say that that's a given. That once they said that it's forbidden to use these oils. Now, what's the gzeira? The first gzeira is that this is similar to when it's congealed. And then the second gzeira is you added oil into it. You want to make a gzeira onto when because it's similar to its congealed. I mean, that makes sense to me to say that that's a pshat. Okay. Tani Rami Bar Chama. There's an interesting Taisus Yishanim here that says that let's say you have one candle in the house that is acceptable. That could be considered like a shamish that will remind you not to adjust the other ones. I don't know what he means, because I thought we were saying that you weren't allowed to light them at all, not just that you weren't allowed to use them. But then he says, if continuing on the same note, he says...
Excuse me, where did we learn you're not allowed to use them?
In the Mishnah, it says, Bameh Madlikin. Oh, where do we learn that you're not allowed? We learned before you're not allowed to read to the light of a candle. That means you can have a candle burning, but you can't read to it.
That's the concern of Shema Yikta, but
Right, Shema Yata, or whatever.
there are two opinions about why we light candles. And the second one is specifically to be used.
You mean the Shabbos candles?
Yeah.
Right. So, Bameh Madlikin, Bameh In Madlikin. Is that telling me about Shabbos candles? Or is that telling me what candles I'm allowed to have burning in my house on Shabbos? Now, today this is a real question, because we have lights and we also light candles as a ritual. In those days, I don't think that was a valid question. I think that all candles that were lit in the house, all light in the house, was Shabbos candles. You would go light candles in whichever room you would use. That was considered the mitzvah of Shabbos. So over here it's saying that you're not supposed to light certain candles.
Yeah, I think the question is, do you light because of the mitzvah of lighting, or do you light so that there should be light? And that's related to shalom bias. But today, we don't rely on candles for light.
Right.
So it's the ritual today.
Right.
But,
although I think there were people that would turn off the lights, light the candles, turn them back on, or something, and say the bracha, something like that. So that all the light. I haven't seen that in a long time, but I remember people they would turn it off or turn it on, and then they would light the candles, or exactly the order, I don't know, but they would consider their lights. We've changed a lot of things. Yeah, I remember not opening the refrigerator on Shabbos until we heard a motor going on.
Right.
I don't know why we switched.
Showing our age.
You read us a Sederis. Okay. Anyway, that Taisus Yishonim makes it look like that if you would have one candle there, then other candles you can light, which I'm not sure what that means. But he also says that things that don't require candle at all, you could use or haner. Get a barrel from this, to take wine out of a barrel. Okay, the next Gemara says, Tani Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama taught. Wicks and oils that the sages said that you can't use on Shabbos, that's Bameh Madlikin. Ein Madlikin b'mikdash, you can't use them in the temple either. It says the Halis Ner Tamid has to be a constant. I don't know if it means constant or consistent. That's a machlekes in the Gemara Menachos. Means if it always is lit, or if it's only lit at night or something. Hutanila, he taught this. V'hu Amala, he also explained it. Kadeshate shall have a seila. Lahalis Ner Tamid means that it has to be able to burn on its own without your help. Now, if you're going to be using these oils, it's going to need your help always. And not that it should be burning through your involvement. Okay, the kasha on this is that doesn't it say that you have to use olive oil? And now we're saying that no, you can use. So the easy answer is that we're referring to the wicks. It doesn't tell us what wicks I have to use, but maybe there's other sources that say that olive oil is the best, but you can use other oils as well, possibly. I don't know. Any comment over there in the art scroll or something? I know the Mishnah says which type of oil is for the menorah, the best of the best. There's 9 types of oils, but maybe that's just for mitzvah min hamuvcher. Tanan, okay, was taught in the Mishnah. Mi baloi michnasei kayanim umehemi neim, from the tattered pants of the kayanim and from their belts. Hayu mafkiyim, they would tear it apart into wicks. Umehem adlikin simchas beis sheva, and they would use it to light. Now there's a problem because you weren't allowed to use wool. Didn't we add tzemer? Yisif alem tzemer. You can't use wool. There was wool in the pants, and they would use it to light in the Beis Hamikdash. The Gemara answers, that's where I have to stop. That's the question. The Gemara answers, Simchas Beis Sheva shiny. They would light it by the Simchas Beis Sheva. That was different. It wasn't in the menorah. This was in the Ezras Nashim. They would light these big torches there. It's interesting. Tosfos over here, he says, how are you allowed to use the clothing of the Kayanim? It's not a carbon. The Simchas Beis Sheva wasn't a carbon, and it's considered me'ila. The clothing of the Kayanim, it says mayalim behem. We had a whole discussion if they're allowed to walk outside with them. They could use it for personal use if they could wear the big dekuna. This should be me'ila by it. He says no, it's because Taisus Ner Lari that it was used for a carbon of shaftamayim besasain. That's considered tzerich a carbon, and it's not considered me'ila. However, he quotes Yerushalmi that says that me'ila doesn't have to do with anything that's visual or smell. Me'ila means that you use it for personal use, but not if it's light or something, not for, say, me'ila, you enjoy its appearance. Me'ila was a personal benefit from things that that were sanctified. But here it's just enjoying its appearance. Well, it's the light that comes off it. So maybe there's no me'ila on that. Tosfos has a good question. Says that there was also linen in the pants. We said that on Shabbos, you can't mix one thing that's acceptable with things that aren't acceptable. Well, in the Beis Hamikdash, we don't have to make the gzeira that we made on Shabbos. We said, oh, why on Shabbos? Ein madlikim b'etz gzeira. You might end up using it plain or whatever. But in the Beis Hamikdash, you don't have to do that. So what's the whole Gemara discussion over here? That they use the pants in the Beis Hamikdash as wicks, but they had acceptable material in there as well. And that should be totally acceptable. Tosfos says that the linen was only a quarter, and that was batal, because there were other materials of it in there. Tchelas hagaman tilashani and sheish masar. The linen was, we said, unfinished linen wasn't acceptable, but finished linen would be acceptable. But that was only a quarter, so it's batal and it's not counted. Which tells me that when the Gemara was discussing before mixing materials, it was talking about where it was probably half and half. Okay. Tashima, come and listen to Tani Rabba Bar Masna, or Matana. I don't know the vowels. Big dekuna shabalu, big dekuna that became tattered. Mafkiyan son, they would tear them apart. My love. They would use them for wicks, is it not? The kilayim, the type of garments that were made out of wool and linen together, and wool wasn't acceptable. When it says loy the butts, it was only talking about the garments that were pure linen. Those were the ones that they used. Okay, so we've answered that up. Okay, now we have a little treat. We start the Chanukah Gemara. It's like it's familiar. So, Amar Rav Huna, that we don't have a Masechta on Chanukah. We would joke about the binder that the Rebbe would talk about, the Bacher de Zetzer, the printer, the guy that would lay the fonts, sometimes would make corrections. He wasn't always the brightest. So they would make corrections. That's what. Anyway, the binders that would bind the books also, they weren't always the brightest. So someone brought a they put together his Gemaras. He brought Masechta Makas and Bechiras. He bound them together, Makas Bechiras, and then they bound also Psachim, Sukkah, and Shavuos. Shavuos is about oaths, but they bound them together. So we don't have Masechta Chanukah, but this is everything that we have about Chanukah. Well, this is the main part about Chanukah. We have some Mishnayos here and there. Okay, Amar Rav Huna taught Psiles v'shamanim shamar chachamim ein malikim ben b'Shabbos ein malikim ben b'Chanukah ben b'Shabbos ben b'chol. Okay, we have in our Mishnah a list of wicks and oils. We said that we shouldn't use them on Shabbos. Rav Huna says you can't use them on Chanukah either. Now Chanukah is 8 days, so there's going to be a Shabbos in there. He says you can't use it during the weekday, those oils, and you can't use them on Shabbos either, Shabbos Chanukah. Well, why do I have candles on Shabbos? Because I'm supposed to use the light. Why do I have candles on Chanukah? Well, I'm supposed to see the light, but I'm not supposed to use it. So on Shabbos, there's a decree, if the oil isn't good or the wicks aren't good, you may adjust it. But on Chanukah, I'm not supposed to use the light of the menorah. So why would I adjust it? I'm not using that light. If I'm reading by it, I can't see, I'm going to adjust it. So with the fact that Rav Huna tells me that I can't use it on Chanukah, tells me two halachas. The first halacha that he tells me, Amar Rava, let's see. Rava explains, my time with the Rav Huna, what's the reason for Rav Huna? Kavsa zakakla. The first thing is that if it goes out during the weekday, you're required to relight it. If your candles go out, you have to relight it on Chanukah. Well, therefore, you can't use these types of oils because Dilma Pasha, you may be negligent and not relight it. Because on Shabbos, you weren't allowed to use it. You may adjust the flame. You'll be violating Shabbos. Why on Shabbos candles? Why on Chanukah in the weekday? What's the problem? You're going to violate a weekday? No, Dilma Pasha, you may not relight it, and you have an obligation to relight those candles according to Rav Huna. So what about on Shabbos when you don't relight it anyway? The same problem that you have with Shabbos candles, you have with Chanukah candles, because Rav Huna holds that you're allowed to use the lights of the Chanukah menorah for personal use. You're allowed to use that light. Rav Chizda Amar. Rav Chizda says, Madlikim ben b'chol. You're allowed to use it in the weekday. You can already guess what he holds. That if the candles go out on a weekday, you don't have to relight it. Avalei b'Shabbos, but you can't use those wicks on Shabbos, on Chanukah. Why? Well, first of all, Kasavar, he holds Kavsa Ein Zakakla, on top of 21b. If it goes out, you don't have to relight it. So there's no problem, Dilma Pasha. There's no problem. You lit the candles, you did the mitzvah. If it goes out, it's fine. On Shabbos, you're not allowed to use it. Why not? Because you're allowed to use the light of the Chanukah menorah on Shabbos. You may end up adjusting it just like your Shabbos candles. You may end up adjusting. And that's a prohibition. Amar Rab Zera, Amar Rav Masna, or Matana. Amar Rab Zera, Amar Rav. It could be in the name of Rav. Psilis v'shamanim shamar chachamim l'likim ben b'Shabbos. Those wicks and oils that we learned in Masechta Shabbos and second parak by Madlikin and Chanukah. Madlikim ben b'Chanukah ben b'chol ben b'Shabbos. You're allowed to use them on Chanukah, on the weekday, and on Shabbos. All those wicks that every Shabbos you were saying you can't use them. Comes Chanukah, you use them. Whether it's the weekday, whether it's Shabbos. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah explains my time with the Rav. What's the reason for Rav? Kasavar, he holds Kav Sein Zakakla. If it goes out, you don't have to relight the candles on Chanukah. Once you lit it, you did the mitzvah. So therefore, if it's a lousy wick, it goes out, it's fine, you did the mitzvah. But you don't have a concern, Dilma Pasha, maybe you won't relight it, because and on Shabbos, there's no problem either, because we have no concern that you're going to adjust the flame, because you're not allowed to use the lights of the Chanukah menorah anyway. Okay, just to go back, we had three opinions here. Rav Huna, Rav Chizda, and Reb Zera, Rav. The one that we're most familiar with is the last one, is the opinion of Rav, where he says that once you lit the menorah, it's okay, you don't have to relight it. And also you don't use the light for personal use. That's the opinion of Rav. What the least familiar with is the opinion of Rav Huna. He also, you have to relight the menorah if it goes out. And you're also allowed to use the light. Rav Chizda was in the middle. Rav Chizda says that you don't have to relight it if it goes out. But he also held that you're allowed to use the lights. So that's okay. Amru Rabbanan Kameda Abaya. The rabbis told this to Abaya. They said it in front of Abaya, Mishmei de Rabbi Yirmiyah, in the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah. The reason for Rav's opinion. V'lei kibla. He didn't accept it. He wasn't relying on that. Kiyasa Ravin, however, Ravin, which was a traveler, we had yesterday Ravin and Abaya. Remember, they were sitting together here or there. I remember exactly, we had it recently. Could be I had it somewhere else. So anyway, when Ravin came, then we have they went some. Oh, it could have been I had it in. Okay, so Ravin said when Ravin came, Ravin was the traveler. He says to Abai, Mishmei Rabbi Yochanan. He said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, the kibla. Then Abai accepts it. Amar Abai says he's zakai. If I would have merited Gamir to Lishmai to me, I would have I would have accepted this years ago when they told it to me earlier. If only I would have merited. The Gemara asks, V'hagamra, so what? He knows it now. Why are you making a big deal? He's zakai. He says, no, nafkamina legirsa diyankasa. If he would have learned it when he was younger, he would remember it. When he's older, he doesn't remember it as well. This is this expression, girsa diyankasa. What you learn when you're younger, so it stays with you longer. And the Gemara now asks, okay, the kav saying zakakla. If it goes out, you don't have to relight it. 1 second. For a minu, there's a contradiction. The mitzvah of the Hanukkah candles is, we're quoting here Masechta Seifrim, which Masechta Seifrim was written in the was edited in the days of the Goinim. It's a much later collection. But nevertheless, this was an early brisa that was later collected. And the Gemara is quoting it. It says that the mitzvah of Hanukkah is from sunset until there's no people left in the market. Now, what does that mean? My love, is it not the kav sahadamadikla? That if it goes out, you have to relight it until there's no people left in the market. So what are you telling me? That kav saying zakakla, if it goes out, if it's extinguished, you don't have to relight it. You do. We have a set time for it needs to burn from here to there. The Gemara answers like, that's not the pshat. The pshat is the Eily adlik madlik. It's telling me to tell you lachatchila. You're coming home late from work. You didn't get a chance to light the menorah. You can light it until until there's no one left. From sunset until there's no one left in the market. You would light it it would have to be someone would have some use from it. Someone would be able to notice it. You would light it outside by the doorway. So when there's no one left in the market, then it was too late. Famous Taisvus over here, Dilay Adlik Madlik. Taisvus says, oh, that means that after that you can't light. And he brings Omerari Pyrus. Don't light late. However, if you are late, you should still light because the Gemara is about to give another answer. And that other answer maybe doesn't hold of this answer. Also, the Re says that don't worry about it now because we light inside, not outside. So who are we lighting it for? For the people in the house. So if there's people in the house that are up, even if there's no one left in the street, so you can still light. We rely on this. You get home, whatever, traveling, this and that. If there's family members that are still up, you can light, or you wake them up. So the inami, another pshat. What is it saying that you have a certain amount of time? It sounds like it's supposed to burn from here to there. You have to relight it if it goes out. So no, l'shiura. Shiura means that when I light it initially, I have to have a certain amount of oil that it should be able to burn from sunset until which is the half hour that we know about. The candles need to burn a half. That's as it's telling me the shear of how long it should be able to burn. Doesn't mean it has to burn that long. If it goes out, it's fine. How long is that when there's no one left? Amar Rabba bar Barchan, Amar Rabbi Yechon. Here we have Rabba bar Barchan, name of Rabbi Yechon. The Kalya Rigla, the Tarmadai, until the feet of the Tarmadai aren't there anymore. Now, Tarmadai were people that would collect wood and they would sell it after everyone left the market. They would come back. They couldn't get their fire started. They would come back to get twigs and different things, and they would sell these twigs. So they were there when people needed it. They would get their fires lit at night, so they would be selling these twigs. Okay. Taner Rabbanan, Taner Nebraisa. Mitzvah's Chanukah. What's the mitzvah of Chanukah? Nerishu Beisei. A candle per household. No one thinks about Hanukkah like this. You walk into someone's house, Dr. Stein, that one candle, that would be the mitzvah of Hanukkah. You see a candle burning in someone's house. So it's Hanukkah. It's first night, second night, third, it doesn't matter. One candle, a lone candle, that would be the whole mitzvah. However, the Mahajin, people that Rashi translates, Mahajin achar mitzvahs, people that running after mitzvahs. So how do they do it? They light similar to the way some people have a custom. How many people you have in the household? Like the Shabbos candles. The mother lights the Shabbos candles. Well, she's married, she lights two. It's one for her, one for her husband, and then one per child. So Chanukah as well. Per person in the house. Who lights that? Doesn't tell me if each individual lights it or if the father lights per person. Doesn't say. But that's the Mahajin. But Mahajin, Mina Mahajin, what about even better than that? The Mahajin of the Mahajin. So Beishamai Yemrim Yem Rishon Madak Shmeina. Beishamai says the first day you light 8. Then it goes 7, 6, 5, 4. And Basil says that you increase. Okay. Who increases? One increases or every family member increases? Machlekes Taisvus here in the Rambam. Taisvus Mahajin, Min Mahajin says Ner Lari, the Beishamai Basil Lekamiela Ner Shabesei. There's only one menorah in the household. And you either light 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, or you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Taisvus explains, because otherwise, if you have so many menorahs, how do you see which light it is? You can only have one per household. The Rambam says differently. The Rambam says that each person is lighting. And the Taz, the famous Taz over here, says that in Chanukah, the Ashkenazim go like the Rambam, and the Sfardim go like Taisvus, which is the anomaly. Usually Ashkenazim paskin like Taisvus, and Sfardim go like the Rambam, but on Hanukkah we switch. Achlifu Duchtayo for the Chassidus. Okay, now Amar Ula. Pligi Batre Amarai b'Marava. There's a machlekes in Eretz Yisrael. Two Amarim, Rabbi Yossi bar Rav and Rabbi Yossi bar Zvida. These two Amarim argue. It doesn't tell us who holds what. But Chad Amar Tamid Beishamai Keneged Yamim Hanechnasim, Tamid Beisil Keneged Yamim Hayotzim. One says what we're familiar with is that Beishamai says how many days you're going to have. Well, the first night you have 8 days, so that's great. You light 8. Second night, there's only 7 days left. It's like vacation. That's how you would Do that. You have 8 days, 7 days. So it's only 7 days left. Okay. I'm sorry. And Beis Hillel holds that Keneged Yom. Well, we had 1 day. We had 2 days. You're like collecting. And the other Amir in Eretz Yisrael, he says that the reason for Beis Shammai is that it's associated with Sukkos. And Sukkos, I have animals that are brought as a sacrifice. And the first day there was 13. Then it went to 12, and then 11, it went down. It corresponds to the nations. And it's showing how they dwindle, and the sheep or whatever, that corresponds to the Jewish people. And but it's Pari Achag, those candles that are those animals that are every night you decrease. That's associated with the menorah, that every night you decrease. What's the connection? Well, historically, the connection was that maybe they missed celebrating Sukkot. And so they were making it up. That would be a historical answer. Because of the wars, the battles, so they missed it. So when they lit the candles, they were replacing a Sukkot holiday that was missed because of the. What's the reason for Beis Hillel? Well, Ma'ila Makadosh, you never want to decrease in anything; you always increase. Amar Rabba Bar Bachanam Rabbi Yechanan Shnei Zakenim Hayu b'Tzeidan. There were 2 elders in Tzeidan. And one did like Beis Shammai and one did like the words of Beis Hillel. This one explained that it's corresponding to the Sukkot sacrifices, the bulls that were brought for Sukkot. And you see, they gave that answer. These 2 elders, they gave that explanation. Okay. Taner Rabbanan. Starting in the Bryson, the candle of Chanukah mitzvah, Michal Pesach Beis Mibachot. The mitzvah is to put it on the doorway on the outside entrance to the house on the outside. But if you lived in a second floor, put it in the window that's close to the outside, to the public area. If there's a sakana, you're not supposed to have candles burning. In Persia, they had some sort of holiday where they only allowed the candles to burn in the church, or whatever they called it. So you weren't allowed to light a private candle in your house. So you would have to put it on inside the house where no one could see it. You can't put it outside. Now, Tesis mentions that we have a story where they came in and they took the candle off the table. They had it over there. He says, well, it was safe. It was safer on the table. That's what it means. Okay. Amar Rava. Rava says, you need another candle to be able to use the light. Rashi says the ner acheres is a hecker, to show that you're not using the light of the menorah. V'ika medura, but if you have a fireplace, fire burning, then light tzarech, then it's not necessary, because why do you light those candles? Clearly because it's the mitzvah. V'ya adam chashavu, but if it's an important person, afagav dika medura tzarech ner acheres. An important person wouldn't use the light of a medura, of a big fire. He uses candles. So then the fireplace, it doesn't show that those were for the mitzvah, because the candles for the mitzvah could be is what he's using for personal use. So then you really need another candle, even though there's a medura. My Chanukah, what is Chanukah? How is it celebrated? The Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, this is a quote, I believe, from Megillas Tainus. Megillas Tainus was the book that had a record of all the holidays during the Second Temple. When we fast, when we don't fast, there are many miracles during the Second Temple, and they celebrated it then. Batla Megillas Tainus, after the destruction, everything was batla except for Chanukah, which we keep. So, what is Chanukah? The rabbis taught, Yomi the Chanukah tamnaya inan. On the 25th of Kislev, the days of Hanukkah are 8. The Leila Misped behind, Leila Sanis behind. You don't give a eulogy and you don't fast. And then it explains, when the Greeks entered into the Beis Hamikdash, they made impure all the oils. When the house of the Chashmonai overcame them and they won, they searched. They only found one jug that had the seal of the Kohen Gadol. It was only enough to burn for one day. Miracle happened and it burned for 8 days. The following year, or a different year, they established the holiday with Halal, which we say Halal, and Haida, which is Alanisim, which we say in Haida, which is in Maidim, or Naidalacha. We say it in Naidalacha and benching. That's Bahida, that's Alanisim. Taisus mentions over here that if there was already a decree on non-Jews that they were considered like a Zav, which we learned about earlier in those 18 things or whatever, so then it wouldn't help to have a seal of a Kohen Gadol, because if a Zav moves it, then it would become tummy. It's called Hesed. He moves it, it would have become tummy anyway. Taisus says they found it in the ground. It was not moved. It was in the ground. That's where we have that from. Did they light the menorah during the second temple as well? Were they celebrating Hanukkah as well? It says Lashana Cheres, but was it still celebrated during the Beis Hamikdash time? That fellow Deitch, he has like a museum, and we don't like him in Chabad, but he claims he has a menorah from the second temple with eight candles. So that would mean that they were lighting Chanukiah, during the Bayis Sheni as well. It wasn't only after the Bayis Sheni when we were celebrating. That's what he says. All right. Tanan Hassam was taught over there. We jump back to Baba Kama. A smith is banging the metal. Spark goes out. The Yatza V'Hizik goes out. It causes damage. So Chayiv, he's obligated. He's at work and has to pay for the damages. Gamel Shatan Pishtan. If a camel is loaded up with flax, they would load those things. I saw a picture. Today they would say wide load on the back. They just load it up. And whoever is going in the public area, as he's going, so it's swiping the walls, and as such a wide load. So yeah, exactly. So it goes into the store, the flax. I'm sorry. It gets lit up by the candle of the storekeeper. Lights the whole place on fire. So Bala Gamal Chayev. That's the problem of the Bala Gamal. His flax was so wide, it goes into the store. He's Chayev to pay for the damage. But let's see the storekeeper put his candle outside the store. Now, Chenveni Chayev, that's his fault. The Chenveni was the one that did something that he wasn't supposed to. He put it outside. Rabbi Yehuda explains, he says that B'nei Chanukah Pater, that if it would have been a Chanukah candle, then he's exempt. Why? Because he has permission to put it there. Amar Ravina Mishum Mishmei de Rava. Ravina says the name of Rav Zoisimeres. Chanukah mitzvah lanicha b'tei chasara. This tells me where the Chanukah candle needs to be. It needs to be within 10 tefachim of the ground. Because if you could put it higher, then we should tell the Chenveni that it's your fault. You could have put it higher. Why do you have to put it in a place where the passerbys could possibly catch on fire? If you say that you're allowed to put it above 10 tefachim, then you should tell the storekeeper, put it higher than the load of the camel, and then it won't catch on fire. The Gemara says, 1 second, that's not a good raya. Maybe yes, you're allowed to put it up there, But we don't want to make people do things that are going to be such a pain that they're gonna say, "Oh, forget about the mitzvah. It's too hard for me." So therefore, it's acceptable to put it lower. So it's acceptable to put it lower. You had permission to do it. Then the other person that was driving by, he's the one that's responsible. And really, it could go higher as well. Amar of Kana, Darsh Reb Nosson bar Binyumi Shmei Reb Tanchum. We have a teaching from Reb Nosson bar Binyumi in the name of Reb Tanchum. And on top of 22, Ner Shel Chanukah Shenich L'mayla Michaf Ama Psula Sukkah K'mavei. That above 20 amas, that's a problem. Just like a sukkah that's above 20 amas, you don't see, the eyes don't catch it. So too, the beam or the Erev that goes across a alleyway, that can't be above 20 amas because it's there to remind you that you're going from Rosh Hashanah into a public area. So also the Hanukkah menorah can't be above 20 amas. Those big menorahs, they have to measure them exactly that they don't go above 20 amas. Taisus asks that the wording of this isn't correct with the way the Gemara explains in Sukkah, that it should have told us any rabbinic decree, you have to tell us how to fix it. You don't tell us that it's psula. You should say, lower it down, like it says by the Mavi. Mavi, that's above 20 amas, you lower it down. So by Hanukkah as well, Hanukkah that's above 20 amas, you lower it down. So Taisus gives two answers here. One, because it says like Sukkah, and by Sukkah it says psula, because that's a biblical law. Or we have a concern that lowering it down, you may think that you can lower it down without relighting it. Amar Rav Kana Darash Rav Nosson bar Binyumi Mishmei Rav Tanchum. Rav Kana says, in the name of that Rav Nosson bar Binyumi says in the name of Rav Tanchum, Maidiksiv, what's the meaning of the pasuk? Vabore came by Mayim, by Yosef, it says he put him into a pit. It was empty, it didn't have water. From the fact that it says that the pit's empty, don't I know that there's no water there? What's the teaching that there's no water? That water there isn't. But there's snakes and scorpions that were in there. In the yeshivas, they would always tell this to you. You think that if you're not learning Torah, so you think just, okay, so there's no Torah. No, there's worms and there's scorpions and snakes that are there starting to crawl inside if you stop learning Torah for water is Torah. Water is compared to Torah.
Why did they bring this piece over here? What's relevant?
So it depends how you want to learn this. Balabatish is because Rav Nosson bar Binyumi says the name of Rav Tanchum. But there's a sikha from the Rabbi that explains, I don't remember, but he explains how it's associated with the Ner Chanukah. Yeah, we have homework for Shabbos. Amar Rabbi. Rabbi says, Ner Chanukah mitzvah lenicha b'tevach asmuch lePesach. That Ner Chanukah, it's a mitzvah to put it in a tefach close to the doorway. V'hecha manachlei, where do you place it? Ravacha brei de Rava amar miyamin. Ravacha brei de Rava, the son of Rava, says you put it on the right side. Rav Shmuel midifti amar mismal. See Shmuel, mismal. That's a way to remember. He says you put it on the left. V'helcha said the halacha is mismal. You put it on the left. Kadeshetei ner Chanukah mismal mezuzah miyamin. So that you should have the mezuzah on the right and the ner Chanukah on the left. You'll be surrounded by mitzvahs. Okay. On Shabbos, we're not going to learn. We'll do on Sunday. We'll learn on Sunday.